Hitting 6th and playing left field, number 19, Matt Merton. Hitting 7th and playing center field, number 20, Torborg.
Nothing, I don't think. I know every once in a while he'll go to spring training with the Cardinals. Ozzie had him come out and work with a couple of his hitters when they were in Boston.
Could he go back to doing it full time?
Oh, he could, but I'm not sure he wants it now.
How old is he?
Walt might be my age. I'm going to be 64 in November, and Walt and I played in the minor leagues. Now, excuse me, I was a college guy, so maybe he might have been he probably at least 60. At least. Now, maybe closer to my age.
Why would a team bring him back? He had a lot of success.
I just don't know if he wants to. I don't know. I'm sure. I don't know.
Our guys are hard. So we're going to make a number of changes.
Oh, really?
Just FYI, you might know this already, but Maddox, I asked Andy McPhail what his contractual status is. He had to pitch over 400 innings. Last year and this year.
Okay.
He is.
Yes, I just heard it.
He has been commented in the paper saying he's going to evaluate he being Maddox at the end of the year whether he's going to pitch again. And Andy told me, he said,
yeah, we got you. Oh, okay. Okay.
It's the besting option.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
So he gets to make the call.
8 or 9 million. 9 million? Yeah.
All right, everybody. Let's have a good time today.
Oh, that's me.
About 2:10. So Carol can get back and watch the Tribe tonight. You are bandwagon as they come. They ain't going to be winning for a long time. My boys hammered them last week. I just hung up the phone with Burks. He's doing that Bengal game tomorrow. He said they are good. He told me they're looking good. Said on film, boy, they look good.
Don't tell me that. That's Santana. They won't score off of him. God.
You rooting for him?
Oh, Dale's over there with him.
Two cities, 300 miles apart, each with its own Midwestern identity. One has the Arch, the other has the Sears Tower. One the Mississippi, the other Lake Michigan. One has a baseball team with 9 world championships. The other has not won since 1908. What these cities do share is one of the longest rivalries in baseball, from Stan the Man to Mr. Cub, the Wizard, and Rhino. Together, these two teams have a history, have made history, and it will continue today.
It's a gorgeous fall Saturday in Chicago and a sellout crowd on hand at Wrigley Field for Game 3 of this weekend series between division rivals, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Jeff Torborg, I'm Thom Brennaman. Welcome, as always, to Baseball on Fox. The magic number for the Cardinals, Jeff, is down to 1. They know they're going to the playoffs. They just have to try and make it official here today. But this season, they've done it in a bit different manner than they did it last year when they won the Central. They still have a very good offense. but this year they've done it with unbelievable starting pitching.
Starting pitching has been outstanding, but they also have outstanding defense. They had 4 Gold Glovers last year. And when you think about a starting rotation where the fewest wins on any of the 5 starters is 12 and one has 21, they are really loaded. Even though, as you mentioned, they are good offensively, but they consistently do the job catching the ball and pitching it.
Chris Carpenter has won 21 games. A starter today, Mark Mulder, has won 15. They did not have either one of them last year during the postseason. Mulder locks up today with the future Hall of Famer, Greg Maddux.
Oh, man, what an artist. This guy is so special. And when you think what he's going after, possibly 18 seasons with 15 wins, that's unfathomable. This guy is unbelievable. But we have a great matchup because we have 2 different types of pitchers. We have a big, tall left-hander in Mulder, but this guy is a good pitcher and knows how to pitch, and he's a money pitcher. And Maddux is always something special to watch. This would be some game. And the Cubs would rather not see the Cardinals officially clinch here.
Cubs have played very well against this Cardinal team. They've won the season series already. Beautiful day in Chicago. Big crowd. And Mulder against Maddux coming up next. You're watching baseball on Fox.
Yes, ma'am. Change up. Okay.
All right.
Hello, friends. It's Scooter. A change-up is just another word for a slow ball.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
This sounds a little different right now.
Test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maddux. Al Maddux. All right. Let's see what's going on.
Testing. Me too. It does sound a little funny, doesn't it?
38, 39.
Big crowd on hand at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The Cardinals in town. Always a great rivalry between these two cities. And we take a look at Tony La Russa's lineup for the Cardinals, gunning for their 2nd consecutive National League Central Division championship today. Lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. David Eckstein at short, Jim Edmonds in center, the amazing Albert Pujols at first, Larry Walker in right field, Reggie Sanders healthy and back in the lineup in left, Mark Resolanek, the former Cub, at second, and a latter third of Abraham Nunez filling in for the injured Scott Rowland. Einar Diaz behind the plate, and 15-game winner left-hander Mark Mulder is on the mound. Starting at 4, the Cubs, 12-12, the future Hall of Famer, right-hander Greg Maddux.
Tommy, at 39, you wouldn't know it. He looks like a youngster out on the mound, and he pitches with an enthusiasm. You can see his numbers. The guy has the ability to make you hit the pitch that he wants you to hit. He's a masterful control artist, always has been. Locates well, changes speeds, a great athlete. He's got 13 gold gloves. He also can hit. He's always fun to watch. Even when you see him have struggle during a game, sometimes if you're especially in the other dugout, you're amazed at what he can accomplish with his stuff.
David Eckstein, the Cardinals shortstop, to lead things off. And he looks at a strike, and we are underway. Eckstein, a National League All-Star. His first career All-Star appearance this season in his first season with the Redbirds. Leads all National League shortstops in on-base percentage. And if you have to try and replace Edgar Renteria, they've done a good job by bringing in Eckstein.
Have they ever? And a lot of people in baseball, with Cabrera going out to the Angels, thought that Eckstein was just kind of an afterthought. This guy comes to play.
And shoots a two-strike pitch into right field, a leadoff single for Eckstein.
You know, Tom, one of the toughest hitters when you're trying to pitch to a particular hitter or catch and call a game is a guy that chokes up on the bat and takes a little short swing. And that's what Eckstein does. Chokes up, puts the ball in play, takes what you give him. He doesn't miss many pitches. That's why his on-base percentage is so good, and that's why he makes this club go.
Jim Edmonds hit his 28th home run of the season here yesterday. His third home run in his last 5 starts. Here goes Eckstein, and a bouncer foul. Boy, and if Edmonds doesn't swing at that pitch, Eckstein could have gone in standing up. That has always been the one chink in the armor of Maddox. You can run on it.
Yes, you always have been able to. As you see, Eckstein didn't even stop. He had that walking lead and kept right on going. Greg Maddox has made it very clear. He worries about making the pitch at the plate. He will change his delivery to try to keep the runner close, but most of the time he really hones in on the hitter, and he can be burned occasionally on the bases.
Runner not going this time, and it's a strike called on the inside corner. And Maddox ahead of Edmonds, 0-2.
You know, Tom, yesterday I was talking to Larry Rothschild, the outstanding pitching coach of the Cubs, and I asked him, does Maddox ever use a 4-seamer? He says, I don't think he knows how to hold one. It's always a 2-seam mover. You know, most pitchers will throw their fastballs in 2 different ways. As you can see this grip, you can see that if you look in his glove, you see he goes right along the seams, and that makes the ball move. Guys that throw across seams are trying to throw it straight. He never throws the ball straight.
Runner going again, and a tapper back to Maddox. And he throws out Edmonds at first, with Eckstein advancing in a scoring position. 1 away.
Eckstein got another outstanding break. He had 1, 2, 3, he had 7 steps before the ball was delivered, but you can see Jim Edmonds with 2 strikes trying to put the ball in play, and Greg Maddox threw that sinker away from it, just kept going away, away, away.
Albert Pujols, a .336 batting average, good enough for second best in the National League. Second to Cub first baseman Derek Lee. And Albert looks at a strike. Pujols first in the National League in runs, first in multi-hit games, second in batting average, third in RBIs, and third with 39 home runs. Just another monster year from a very special player.
Yes. Tom, as I watch Pujols hit, it reminds me of what Andrew Jones is doing for the Braves now. They spread out. Their stance is very, very wide. They don't commit as much. People will stand tall. I remember years ago that Gary Sheffield, when he stood up, you could fool him. He spread his stance out. You can't fool him anymore. And that's the way Pujols stands. Look how wide his stance is. He barely strides.
Breaking ball, and Pujols does not chase it. 1 ball and 2 strikes. I mean, when you bring up Pujols' name and what he has done through his first 5 years in the big leagues, the only guy you can compare him to statistically is Joe DiMaggio. And the numbers are frighteningly similar. The next home run for Pujols will be his 200th. He would be the 3rd youngest player to get to 200 home runs in the history of the game. He's only 25 years old. 2-2.
That's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine also his numbers offensively with not being able to run as well as some of the other people. Now, Joe DiMaggio could really go. Now, I never played against him, but my father said he could. But Pujols can steal bases because he's smart enough to run, but he doesn't have that burning speed that they beat out those infield hits. So those numbers are even more hard to imagine.
grounded foul on the third baseline. Pujols is already just the fourth player in Major League history to knock in 100 or more runs in each of his first 5 years. And he's one of those guys, and there are a number of them out there, who get hits when you really need them. There are some that are the other way, that have big gaudy numbers, but you rarely remember any of the hits that they have over the course of a year. Line right back to Maddox. And the 13-time Gold Glove winner throws out Pujols for the second out of the inning. Eckstein still at second base.
Well, we talked about Maddox. He's 39 years of age, but he's still a great athlete. Now, this ball was a one-hopper and really hit hard at him. And Pujols puts a charge into the ball. And remember how close the pitcher is to the hitter. And Maddox makes this look easy. And as you mentioned, when you have that many Gold Gloves, there's a reason for it. You don't do it because somebody out there in the media likes you. You've done it because you've earned it. That's one of the reasons he's won so many ball games. 317 games in his career. I guarantee a lot of those were won with his glove as well.
Overall, Maddox has won 14 Gold Gloves in his career. He won the 13 consecutively. And now Larry Walker looks at ball one away. Walker playing with a great deal of pain in his neck. Periodically, he has taken a shot of cortisone into the neck, which relieves a lot of the pain, and the Cardinals figure they'll give him one more about a week before the playoffs begin. It allows him to play at least for a short time pain-free.
When this guy is healthy, he is as good as there is out there. He knows how to play the game. He's an outstanding defensive outfielder. He can run for a big guy, and he can hit the ball out of the ballpark in any field. This guy is a very special player when he's healthy.
Walker is still the only player in Major League Baseball history to have a season where he hit over 350 with more than 200 hits while hitting 40 or more home runs and stealing more than 30 bases. Did that in 1997 with the Colorado Rockies. Three and one to Walker.
Well, with the open base that you have here, even though you've got Reggie Sanders on deck, he's a right-handed hitter, and as good a hitter as Larry Walker is, and also hitting from the left side, I don't think Maddox is going to give him too much to hit here.
Base hit into right field. Rounding third and coming in to score is Eckstein. And a run-scoring single by Walker makes it 1-0 St. Louis.
Yeah, I take that back. I don't think he wanted to, and I tell you what surprised me a little bit is that they went to go inside, and if you miss out over the plate. This ball was right down the middle. This is not the way Greg Maddux wanted to pitch him here. I really was a little surprised that Henry Blanco, the Cub catcher, slid inside, because at 3-1, if you want to be careful, you better make sure you get it way in there. And that ball was left over the plate.
The Cardinals, it seems, day in and day out, are jumping in front in the opening inning. In fact, they've scored more first-inning runs than any team in Major League Baseball. 113 of them.
Now, Henry Blanco moves inside, and the ball doesn't get in there. It hangs over the plate, and those are the little things that can hurt you against a special hitter and also against a good ball club. A good ball club puts outstanding at-bats on you. And, of course, Greg Maddux has lived that way. Situational pitching. You hear about situational hitting.
There goes Walker. Pitch taken. Throw to second. And not in time to get Larry Walker. His second steal in 3 attempts.
Now, Tom, what does this tell you? This club has it all but wrapped up. A guy has got a bad neck, and he's still trying to run. That's a competitive instinct. That's what makes this club a winner, and that's why you say, well, maybe one of these clubs, like the Cubs, doesn't have much to play for. Baloney. You play for pride in these things. Larry Walker knows that he can try to steal a base, but surprisingly, with the neck, he did.
Now, Reggie Sanders just came back to the Cardinal lineup on Monday, missed 2 months after fracturing his right fibula in an outfield collision with Jim Edmonds back on July the 15th. Many of you know about all the injuries the Cardinals have had as some big-time players. Walker's missed a lot of time. Sanders a couple of months. Rollins out for the year. He had a good rip at that pitch and fouled it straight back 1-2. When the collision occurred, it didn't look all that bad.
No, it looked like it just clipped his leg and flipped him over, but sometimes that's all it takes if you hit the wrong spot. And of course, Reggie Sanders is a stallion, and you don't mess around with Stallion's legs. This guy is a good player. He's been around, been on a lot of different clubs. A quality player, and he's gotten healthy just at the right time for the postseason for the Cardinals.
So all the games that have been missed by the Cardinals opening day lineup. The other two teams in front of them, it's an amazing story. The Washington Nationals are hanging in like they're hanging in with all their injuries. And the Dodgers season just ravaged by injuries. Yet they're 5.5 back in the NL West.
Well, you'll start to see them add up about this time of year. It's been a long season, but a lot of these clubs got banged up real early.
Strike three call to Sanders to end the opening inning. A run-scoring single by Walker gives St. Louis a 1-0 lead.
It's Scooter. Check this out. I can be a real sinker. I look like a regular fastball, but then I dive down like an anvil fell on my head. Ow! Thanks. Show business.
Yeah, one more, please. One cream, one sugar, please.
Fox Saturday Baseball sponsored by Sprint Business. Sprint Business, yes, you can. And by Chevy. Chevy and baseball, they just go together on American Revolution. Dusty Baker, Chicago Cubs, 2 games under 500. Has split the first 2 games of this series. His lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. Jose Macias at second, Nathan Perez at short, Derek Lee at first. Nomar Garcia-Parra at third base, Jeremy Burnitz at right, Matt Burton at left. Corey Patterson, Henry Blanco, and Greg Maddux to face left-hander Mark Mulder.
Well, the Cubs are going to go after a big guy, 6'6", with great leverage off the mound. He's got a very smooth delivery. And you can see his numbers, 15 wins, nice ERA. This guy can do what he wants if he's around the plate and he's healthy. Very smooth delivery. It makes it, because he's so big, makes his delivery very deceptive. The ball gets on people quickly. Good fielder. Both runners well. He's got an outstanding sinker ball. It's in the low to mid 90s, and the ball just sinks. And coming from this size, it's got to be awfully tough for a hitter to pick it up.
2-0 to Macias, and there's a strike. Mulder grew up here in Chicago in South Holland, Illinois. And yet he has never beaten the Chicago Cubs. In fact, they have roughed him up so far this season. Swung on and missed. 2-2.
Well, usually after seeing a pitch like that, now that's what you call almost a perfect sinker ball. The bottom fell out of it. If he keeps the ball down there, it's going to be tough to rough him up. Probably the Cubs have gotten him on days when he couldn't keep the ball down. That pitch you just saw there was a cutter. He throws a cutter into right-handed hitters. A cutter really is a short slider. Just hold the ball off center and throw it like a fastball, and it cuts in. And it really is the pitch of this age.
Out in front of the plate, Diaz out to get it, and throws out Macias. 1 away. Mulder in his first season with the Cardinals. Mulder, along with Carpenter, reasons why a lot of people believe that the Cardinals are much more prepared, better armed for a World Series title this year, with Carpenter and now Mulder coming over from Oakland.
And I think that's true, especially when you put a left-hander in a rotation, too. That adds a different look. Plus the fact that he's a great big left-hander, plus the fact that he's been a very successful one. You put them in there, and Morris has come back healthy. Jason Marquis, Supan, they've got quite a rotation. But they add this big an arm in there is really something.
Ball one inside of Nafi Perez, a .276 batter, 9 home runs, 51 batted in. Mulder took a little time to make his adjustment to the National League. His first 15 starts, he had an ERA of 4.7. Off the glove of Nunez, tries to recover, but that'll be an infield hit more than likely for Perez. It is a base hit.
As you see this pitch, the ball's down. You're going to get a lot of ground balls from sinker balls, and here the ball's hit hard. Nunez goes to backhand the ball, and it stayed up on him. Sometimes the ball will shoot. You can see he's looking for the backhand. He almost overreached for the ball, and he got it on down on the pad of the glove rather than in the pocket of the glove.
Well, he talked about Albert Pujols and the kind of season and seasons he's had. This has been a career year for Derek Lee, the National League's leading hitter. Got off to the monster start. Checks in at .341, 44 home runs, 102 runs batted in, and 4 doubles away from 50 of those.
This guy, I had the honor to be around, the pleasure of watching day in and day out when I was managing the Marlins. He's one of the finest men I've ever met, not to mention ball player. But you know, he looks completely different now, Tom, with this new stance, with an open stance where his left foot is down toward the third baseline. You must remember, he's 6'5", 250 pounds. He used to get tied up. You could pitch him inside, and there was a big hole in there. Well, now with his front foot down the third baseline, it allows his hands to come through the zone, and he has just been unbelievable this year.
Well, you saw the disparity between the first half and the second half. No player was going to continue the kind of run that Lee was on through the first half of the year.
I agree with you. When you think about what he has done, and plus he doesn't have the batters around him that they can not pitch around him. It's like what Barry Bonds went through for a number of years. They didn't want to pitch to this kid the second half.
3-1 to Derek Lee.
You know, on top of all this, he can steal bases. He's a Gold Glove first baseman. And the kind of power now, it's almost like when you hear somebody say they unleash power. This stance has unleashed his power.
They're giving him the entire right side of the infield. It's wide open. Mulder going to send Perez back to the bag. But Grzelcyk only about 10 feet off the second base bag. Eckstein well around, and Nunez hugging the line at third.
I used to watch him play in that Pro Players Stadium, which is now Dolphins Stadium in South Florida, and that ball doesn't carry him.
Pujols picks it up, throws to second, gets he out there. They're saying foul ball. That's the home plate umpire's call until it gets to the bag. Pujols fielded the ball in front of the bag.
Exactly. The umpire's got that perfectly right. That ball was just to the right of that line. Pujols is wondering where it was, but it's where it is over the line. See Albert go for the ball. See where he reaches? That ball is definitely in foul ground, but very good call time. That home plate umpire has got jurisdiction until it reaches the base. But I was starting to say with Derek Lee, he used to hit monster shots to right center field and they would die. And it got to the point where it affected him so much he wouldn't go to the other side of the field. He'd try to pull everything because he couldn't hit it out over there. In this ballpark, he can hit it out anywhere.
There's ball 4 outside. Well, the Cardinals leading 1-0. And that very much in jeopardy now with 2 on and 1 out. And Nomar Garciaparra coming up.
Now, when we take a look at Garciaparra, he, of course, had a great start of his career with the Red Sox and then had injuries interfere with his last 2 seasons. But since he's been back, he's been red hot. And he fits right into that mold. We were just talking about Albert Pujols and guys with spread stances. Garciaparra, who goes through this little dance every time he goes up to hit, has a widespread stance, so very often he can't be fooled with breaking balls either.
Strike one at the knees. Only 51 at-bats before the terrible groin injury for Garciaparra when the season began. And you see post-injury, 325 batting. And since coming back, he's been playing third base after they lost Ramos Ramirez. Double play ball here, and the Cardinals do it better than anybody. And the 1-0 St. Louis. Sellout crowd on this Saturday afternoon at Wrigley Field in Chicago. And the Cardinals on a Larry Walker 2-out RBI single in the first have a 1-0 lead over Greg Maddux and the Cubs. Martin Bresolanic, 293, 8 home runs, 53 runs batted in to lead it off.
You know, it's interesting, Tom, when you take a look at this Cardinal team, they take players from other teams, plug them in, and they are all successful within that framework. Give Tony La Russa a lot of credit for doing that Cardinal organization. Walt Jocketty does a great job fixing and filling with the pieces and putting them together, and each guy that seems to come seems to fit in. I know they do their scouting.
Rio to Bresolanic, and there's a 4-pitch walk. Baseball today, tomorrow. Fox NFL Sunday returns with more exciting action. The Detroit Lions look to go 2-0. They'll visit the Bears. And later, Kurt Warner faces his old club as the Cardinals hope the Rams. Plus other regional action. It all begins tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on Fox. Joe Buck, longtime voice of the Cardinals, along with Troy Aikman here in the Windy City this weekend. And now Abraham Nunez with a leadoff man aboard. Tony La Russa can't talk enough about the job Nunez has done. A middle infielder, his first number of years with the Pirates. And really a jack of all trades, could play him anywhere, and that was the role they thought he would play during this season. And after Roland got hurt, Nunez has become the everyday guy. He beats the throw at first. They cut down the lead runner.
You know, it's interesting what you're saying, too. When you think about he replaced Scott Rowland, a gold glover, a big power hitter, a big producer. Normally on the corners, as you see them turn this double play, and Nunez with his speed beats it out. Derek Lee pulled off the base a little bit. But Nunez has filled in, as you say, as a middle infielder at a power position, and Tony has made it work. That, again, is what the Cardinals and Tony La Russa are able to do.
Yadier Molina feeling a little under the weather this morning. Therefore, Einar Diaz getting to start behind the plate. There goes the runner and a base hit into right field. On his way to third is Nunez. They're going to hold him right there. Throw cut off by Derek Lee. It's another thing about this Cardinal team. With all the power they have, due to the injuries, they're also not afraid to play small ball.
You know, it's interesting. Tony always, as a manager, even when he had those big power, as you see this line drive hit the other way, that's an inside out swing, by the way. It's interesting. A lot of your backup catchers know how to handle the bat. They're down in the order, and you can put these types of plays on, a hit and run. Tony used to put the hit and run on with a Bash Brother team. You know, it didn't matter what kind of team he had. He would make sure he forced the issue at times, and that puts the defense on their heels.
Now Mulder, here comes a squeeze, and look at this, done to perfection. My, oh my. Cardinals have done it primarily with David Eckstein this year, but now they ask Mulder, who did not have a single sacrifice the entire season, to put down the suicide squeeze, and he executes a play.
Well, they're getting ready for the postseason.
Oh.
I'd put one of those on. In fact, you were probably broadcasting the game or telecasting the game out against the Diamondbacks with a left-handed, as you see him come in, it's perfect, with a left-handed pitcher, Mark Redmond, and the ball hit him in the thumb and broke his thumb. Now, that's when you're not going good. When you're going good, you get it down like this.
You know, we don't want to turn this into a Tony La Russa broadcast, but certainly you have to give the credit where the credit is due. I mean, he is a manager, and there aren't a lot of them, at least I don't think, Jeff, you tell me if you agree, who is willing to make a lot of changes during the course of a year depending on various situations. A lot of teams, they have a lot of veteran guys, and this guy's feelings might get hurt if you don't bat him third. That guy might get upset if you don't bat him clean up. Tony doesn't have that kind of team. They don't want those kind of players around. If you come here, you better realize there's a chance, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, or it's necessary to move somebody else into a position to get them better or get them right, he'll do it.
Absolutely. And his right-hand man for all these years has been Dave Duncan. He'll do the same thing with the pitching staff.
On the ground is short. Perez will throw out Eckstein, and that'll end the inning. The suicide squeeze from Mulder brings in Nunez after a hit and run, got him to third. 2-0 St. Louis. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by Budweiser, the bright color and crisp, clean taste you'll only find in the king of beers. Budweiser front and center in this ballpark each and every day, going back to the late great Harry Carey. Jeremy Burnitz to begin things in the Chicago second inning. The Cardinals with a 2-0 lead, their magic number at 1. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they've already won the National League Central, because if they were to lose every game and the Astros win every game and they finish in a tie, the Cardinals have already won the tiebreaker. They have dominated the Astros this season, winning 11 of 14. But Tony feels like you still got to nail it down and make it official, and no celebrating until you do.
Well, they know they're going to win the thing. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, it's mathematically possible, but not realistic at all. But Tony's not a guy who celebrates in your face. You know, he's very professional about how he handles his club. You know, the guys that have been so successful over the years, when you think about Tony La Russa, Bobby Cox, for example, Joe Torre, all super professional guys. Don't ever try to show somebody up. Don't get too, over enthusiastic out in somebody's face. Now, Tony has had some run-ins with other managers when the other managers and he don't agree on certain things. Dusty being one of them, Buck Showalter, and so on. But very professional in their approach, and that's the way their teams play.
Sounded like a broken bat pop-up that will drift out of play, and Burnitz will get a new piece of lumber. Be followed in the inning by Matt Burton and Corey Patterson. It's been a rough go, really, for the better part of 2 years for Dusty Baker and the Cubs. Meanwhile, going back to when we were here during that 2003 National League Championship Series, when they were 5 outs away from advancing on to the World Series for the first time since 1945. They were the wild card leader very late last season and watched it crumble. There's a base hit into left center field by Burnitz. While we have a moment, let's check in with Jeannie Zelasco from our Fox Network Center. Hi, Jeannie. Jeff, it's amazing coming into Chicago, where you used to manage, of course, for the White Sox. The gloom and doom feeling about that team over on the south side of town from their diehard fans. I mean, they've been the leaders almost the entire season. They've had the best record, still do, in fact, in the American League. Yet now, all of a sudden, Cleveland, 37-15 since being 49-48. The Tribe will play later tonight, 4.5 back. They play here starting Monday night.
Well, this has got to be awful tough on that White Sox team. They've been doing it with enthusiasm and energy. Ozzie Guillen, of course, one of my favorites. You know, I called on him to become a coach with the Expos, and then he became a manager, and even families over. My son is over there as one of the strength and conditioning coaches. The whole coaching staff all play for me. I feel terrible for the way that things are going, but I'll tell you one thing. If anybody can get him out of that mess, it's Ozzie. He's got this infectious personality. He's unbelievably bluntly honest, and he'll let his players know.
High and away to Matt Burton.
But when a lead goes from 15 games to 4.5, and in this town where they've seen crazy things happen, they're concerned. And I know the White Sox players are concerned, but if they can play their game, they've got good pitching. They play the inside game, which they didn't play very well for about the last 2.5 weeks. They get back to that, they'll be okay. But how about their luck? Their luck's not running too well. Santana was scheduled to start Wednesday, and they pushed him back to pitch today against him. They didn't need that.
No.
The Indians like it, but the White Sox are not too sure of it.
White Sox and the Indians have 6 more games against one another. We talked about beginning Monday for 3 in Chicago, then the final 3 games of the year at Jacobs Field in Cleveland. Mulder put 2 on with 1 out in the first inning, got Nomar to bounce into an inning-ending double play, and now Burnitz has began the second inning with a base hit. Base hit right field. Two on and nobody out for the Cubs, trailing 2-0. Here's the Burger King, have it your way, home field advantage, and today we zero in on the ivy on the outfield wall at Wrigley Field. The original vines were purchased and planted by Bill Beck in September of 1937. He strung the bittersweet from the top of the wall to the bottom and planted the ivy at the base of the wall. The ball gets lost in there. It's a ground rule double.
That's unique. You don't think of Bill Veeck on this side of town. You think of with the White Sox or with the Indians or with the Browns and the midget hitting, but you don't think of him here. He's had quite an impact on this game.
Bunted by Corey Patterson, and that'll be a sacrifice, advancing the runners on to second and third. It appeared as though Patterson was doing that on his own.
Well, it's an excellent bunt as you see him lay it down the first base line. One of the things that we're seeing right now, things we were talking about in the beginning of this game, is that Mark Mulder's got to keep the ball down. Well, the 2 base hits that he's given up in this inning, the ball was up. Whenever you've got a guy with an outstanding sinker ball wanting to live on that sinker ball and even changing speeds, you want to keep it down, and he's gotten a couple balls elevated a little bit.
Cubs have had a hard time getting runners in from third in these situations this season. And now they're going to run into serious problems. Throw to the plate, the runner is out, and this has been going on, Cub fans will tell you, all season long.
Well, I know some clubs will use a running trick that the minute the ball's hit on contact, they'll go, but not with runners at first and second, not in this situation. And he didn't even go on contact. He hesitated and went back. I'm not sure what's going on. Jeremy Burnitz looked to see where the runner was. I think maybe he got run off by Merton. I think he looked up and saw the runner, Matt Merton, at second base coming toward him, and he decided he better go.
Only the Colorado Rockies have done a worse job this season in all of baseball of getting a runner from third base home with less than 2 men out. Only 48.5% of the time have the Cubs put a runner at third with less than 2 out and gotten him in. And look at the other teams on that list. The only one really in competition for a playoff spot, the Astros. And they've had offensive problems all year.
Well, you really want to play the inside game. You have to do that to be consistent. We just talked about the White Sox. When they stop doing that is when they've gone into a slump. Obviously, their pitching has struggled a little bit, too. No team is going to be perfect, but you've got to eliminate your mistakes. You can't keep making mistakes like that and have a chance to win.
Mulder, meanwhile, continues to struggle with his command. He's fallen behind the pitcher, Maddox, 3-0.
Tommy, one of the things you can do as a manager and a coaching staff, you can drill, you can drill, you can drill, you can do it before games, you can do all you want, but once the player gets out on the field, his instincts take over, and sometimes the judgment is not there. And it makes you say, well, what happened? Sometimes they're trying too hard. Sometimes they just have brain cramps. I don't understand. I know one thing. I got a lot of gray hairs up there from watching some of those plays like that.
Runners on the corners, 2 away, 3-1 to Greg Maddux. Full count.
Well, something was haywire in that play because Jeremy Burnitz knows how to play the game. He's always been a good player, a hard-nosed player. He runs the bases hard. He knows how to play, and something happened there. I think he got run off the base.
4th full count for the first 9 batters. And Maddox fouls it away. We'll do it again at 3-2.
We talk about Greg Maddux helping himself over the years with being such a great fielder. He's also been able to handle the bat like you see him doing right now, that he can help himself at times. And they certainly need it now with 2 outs in a situation where it's down to It's just him, 3-2. He normally puts the ball in play.
Runner from first goes, 3-2, and again fouled back to the screen.
Remember when he was with those Braves teams and Glavine and Smoltz, they used to have competition. They could all hit. They were the best hitting pitchers in the league, and boy, does that help you.
This will be the 8th pitch in this at bat. So Maddox making Mulder work, and now trying to cash in. Bouncing ball to short. Eckstein will have to play to first, and the inning is over. Cubs put the first 2 on, fail to score. They trail 2-0. We're back after a break from your local Fox station. Edmonds, Pujols, Walker against Maddox in the St. Louis 3rd inning. Cardinals with a 2-0 lead. They've manufactured both of their runs. Conversation going on in between innings between third base coach Chris Spire and the rookie left fielder Matt Merton. Merton was a guy who broke from second to third, forcing Burnitz to try and come to the plate. That ball in the air, left center field against C. Ivy. And it's up against C. Ivy. And pulling in with a double to begin the 3rd is Edmonds. Not sure what happened on that ball by Patterson. The ball hit the ivy coming down. And it's only an 11-foot wall out there, and the top 1.5 foot of that is covered up by the basket.
You know what happens sometimes out here is the fact that the basket overhangs, as you say, on some of these high fly balls, you think it's going to catch in the basket and it misses it. But Corey Patterson has played this outfield for a long time. He must have thought he had a read on it that it was out, but it stayed in the ballpark.
Rounded down to third by Pujols, and now Edmonds breaks for third. Here's a throw by Lee, and Edmonds in there. Boy, this is just outstanding baseball by the St. Louis Cardinals. All the little things that add up to the big things.
You're not kidding. That we talked about the little things not working for the Cubs, but you see what the Cardinals have already done in this game. Throw across now. Derek Lee has a terrific arm, and it wasn't even close. That's the way the Cardinals have been doing a lot of things to win. It's not just their big powers. We mentioned at the beginning of the game their defense, but look at the way they run the bases.
Well, they played hit and run in the first inning, allowing Eckstein to get into scoring position for Walker, who knocked him in. Then in the second inning, they played hit and run to put a runner at third, setting up the suicide squeeze. There's a Tapper foul by Walker. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Well, everything they have done that we've seen today has been all aggressive. We talked about Larry Walker stealing second base. We talked about before he even came to the plate that he's got a bad neck. Well, you would think with them almost, well, they really do have it clinched, but he would shut it down for a while. That's not the way they play.
Line into right center field, another hit and another RBI for Larry Walker. This one will score Edmonds, and it's 3-0 St. Louis.
I think he broke his bat in this, but it doesn't matter. He's so strong he could force it out of there. I think that bat is broken, and I think Greg Maddox wanted to get that ball in on him. Again, remember the last at bat he got a base hit on a ball they didn't get in on him. That used to be the book on Larry, that you had to move the ball in and out, but yeah, I believe he broke his bat on that ball. Had a funny sound, but your big power hitters, even with a broken bat, can drive the ball a little ways, and that's why you have to play deeper for them, and they get a lot of base hits in front of the outfielders.
Walker stole second base, as Jeff alluded to a moment ago, back in the first inning, and may be on the move again. Sanders struck out looking, ending the Cardinal first.
You know, Tom, you and I were talking before the game with Dusty Baker about how managers and clubs go about preparing for the postseason. One of the things you got to guard against is shutting it down, because sometimes you can't get it started again. So it's got to be a nice feel of how you play your guys. Rest them maybe a little bit here, but don't hold them back. That's one of the things. You got to let them play. Sometimes that has been the saying, I'm sure, in sports for a long time. If you play it halfway, that's when you get hurt. If you play it all out, you know, then that's what you're used to playing like.
Tony La Russa will become the first manager in St. Louis Cardinals history, as that one is a base hit into left field, to take a team to the postseason 6 times. This will be their 5th National League Central Division title over the last 6 years, but they have yet to win the World Series with Tony La Russa as manager.
Well, they got a good start toward it this year. For them to come back the way they have come back after having been embarrassed in the World Series last year, that is a great bit of managing to begin with. It's not just personnel that wins for you, it's attitude. They went to spring training, and Tony didn't let them even think about last year. But I've been on a team that was swept with the Dodgers in 1966. We didn't recover for years. That takes, well, of course, Sandy Koufax retired too. That had something to do with it. But it's an attitude, and they just keep playing and playing hard. But this might be the year for them.
Walker continues to extend his lead and draws the attention of Maddox out there at second base.
You know, you were talking about Tony La Russa. You remember in '83 with the White Sox, they finished like 20-some games ahead when they won, and they got beaten in the playoffs by Baltimore. And they said, well, they didn't have a good year. Well, they did have a good year. In a short series, you never know what's going to happen. And, of course, then Tony had those outstanding teams in Oakland. I wish back in 1990 when I was with the White Sox, we won 94 games, but there was no wild card. They won 103 in the same division. And, of course, in 90 they lost in 4 straight to Cincinnati, but they had won the '89 series against the Giants.
Of course, that is still the only World Series title for La Russa, who passed Sparky Anderson in managerial wins a couple of weeks ago. But Anderson won 3 World Series, 2 in Cincinnati, 1 in Detroit. Tony's only title came in '89, the earthquake-marred World Series against their Bay Area rivals in San Francisco. They lost in '88 to the Dodgers. A's were heavily favored that year, as they were in '90 against the Reds, swept by Cincinnati. and then swept last year by Boston. One to Grzelcyk. Back to the mound, could be two. There's one, and that's a double play. Cardinals have scored a run in each of the first 3 innings and lead 3-0. Nothing ball game. St. Louis trying to officially wrap up the National League Central Division Championship with a win here today. And they've given Mark Mulder a 3-0 lead. Top of the order for the Cubs, Macias to begin things. And a 2-hopper at David Eckstein. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Now there was that cutter. We were talking about Mulder living on his sinker ball and throwing changeups, but this was a cutter that got in on Macias's hands, which is not normally the pitch you see right away in the count. Normally you try to set it up first with a strike, but instead he went with a cutter right away and then broke his bat, and Macias is out on 1 pitch. And it could be he turned to that because his sinker is not down. Neither of the pitchers today have been able to locate the way they would like to.
Ball 1 down low to Neifi Perez, who's had a solid season for the Cubs. They had all the injuries in their infield. Garciaparra went down for an extended period of time. Their opening day shortstop Todd Walker, 3 days later after Garciaparra got hurt, he went on the DL. So Perez has played second, and now a lot of time at short and having a good year.
Boy, is that important in this league, too. You better have a good bench in the National League because you do so much pinch hitting and double switching. But you also better have a middle infielder who can go in and play every day if somebody goes down, because invariably that'll happen. And that is a valuable member.
In the hole, Eckstein can't get to it, and Perez is 2 for 2. Take a look at our Pepsi Power Hitters home run leaderboard. Andrew Jones, the major league leader with 50 home runs, also on that list. Derek Lee, Albert Pujols. Log on to foxsports.com, keyword Pepsi, for your chance to win the Pepsi Complete Ultimate Sports Fan Experience. Last week's home run derby winner, Fred Fell. One of the more talked about races, individual races, coming down to the final 2 weeks of the season. Who is the National League's most valuable player? Saw two of the leading candidates there a moment ago, Pujols and Lee. And of course you have to include Andrew Jones.
You really do. I think for the first half, everyone was talking about Derek Lee being a potential triple crown winner. It's an awful lot to ask, especially if you don't have enough weaponry around you that allows you to not be pitched around. When you then, if you're pitched around, they're very careful with you. You try to open your strike zone, and then you limit what your production might be. But I don't think you could go wrong with any one of those guys. I mean, they're all having wonderful years. Well, let's see. We've got 2 weeks left. Let's see what happens within the next 2 weeks. Anything could happen.
And you have to include the fabulous young player, those Florida Marlins, Miguel Cabrera. He left the right side open, and Lee finds it with a base hit into right field. One of the reasons why he is the leading hitter in the National League.
Well, as we talked about, that open stance starts him open, but it also gets him closed up. So if the ball is out over, he can hit it that way. Actually, the pitch was not way out over. It was more in the middle of the plate, so he had every intention, I think, of going that way. Derek Lee is one of the most unselfish players I've ever been around. I talked to him yesterday. He didn't even want to talk about the kind of year he's having. He wanted to talk more about family and that type of thing. That's the kind of guy he is. He's team-oriented. He'll do what it takes to win. You know, he was the important cog in 2003 that helped them, you know, the Marlins, in that second half of the season. If you remember, Mike Lowell, the third baseman, was hurt, and he was in a slump, and Derek Lee picked it up. You know, I feel really good about what this guy's done because, you know, sometimes you'll watch a young player and you'll say, I really believe he's going to be a 40 home run guy some year. And I think he can steal 20 bases. And I had some looks like, what, are you kidding? Well, there he is. Really makes you feel good, especially when it's a good guy, you know?
Guy you root for.
Yes.
Garciaparra came on with two on base his first time up and bounced into an inning-ending double play. It's a ball and a strike here. Cubs down 3-0 in the third.
Well, this will be interesting because when Garciaparra came up the first time, he let a ball get in on him, and he grounded into the double play. Now, if he's the type of hitter who looks for pitches, and he'll hit the pitch. If he's looking for it and it's a mistake pitch, he can drive it a long way. Let's just see where Mulder goes with him.
Double play ball again. Nope. Bobbled by Nunez. They're not going to be able to turn it. So the Cubs get an extra out. Nunez has been quite sure-handed down there at third base, filling in for Roland, but a couple of tough chances today. This one should have been made.
Now this ball scooted. We were talking about the ball before, kind of came up a little bit on the backhand. This ball scooted off it didn't come off the grass over the lip on a bounce. It scooted and stayed down, and I think it caught him. It got to him a little quicker than he thought it would, and he's kicking himself a little bit because he's got real good hands. But again, Mulder went to the sinker, and he got the ground ball.
Now left-handed batting, Jeremy Burnitz with runners on the corner. Fastball outside corner, strike one.
You know, looking at Burnitz, he really showed me something. A couple years ago, he was struggling so badly with the Mets, but he worked like crazy. He never put his head down. He played as hard as he could. You could throw the ball by him inside, outside. He just struggled, but he never quit. He really showed me, you know, a real professional approach. That's another guy. When you see them come back and have a good year, he went to Colorado, had a good year. He's having a good year here. It's interesting to watch guys' careers go. He came up as a highly sought-after prospect with the Mets, and then he went to Cleveland, and he bounced around a little bit. And then he had some good years in Milwaukee.
Yep.
Oh, and 2, Mulder against Burnitz. Struck him out on 3 pitches to end the inning. Cubs have left 5 men on base. And to 3, they trail the Cardinals 3-0. o'clock Saturday baseball, sponsored by Bank of America. Higher standards. By the makers of Pepsi Complete, just one, and heartburn's done. And by XM Satellite Radio with live play-by-play of Major League Baseball games for every team all season long. Cardinals lead 3-0. They've scored a run in each of the front 3 innings against Greg Maddux. Abraham Nunez to be followed by Einar Diaz and then Mark Mulder. Every player in the Cardinal lineup has either reached base, scored a run, or made at least a productive out, leading to a run.
You know, Tom, that's interesting when you say that. When you look at Greg Maddux, you know, he strikes people out, but he also makes you hit the ball. He's not going to waste a lot of energy for strikeouts unless he gets ahead in the count and then wants to put you away. But a club that puts good at-bats on you, and as you say, makes productive outs or puts the ball in play correctly, can give him trouble. And, of course, we talked about Larry Walker. Larry Walker's driven in 2 runs in this game. That guy's a big-time hitter. Has been for a long time.
Which gets back to one of the topics, and you and I have talked about it before, Jeff, that, I mean, the more and more, at least for me, that I watch the game, the guys that swing and miss a lot, I don't want a lot of those guys on my team.
No, they better be big producers, and you better,
real big.
Yeah, and you better not have too many.
Rounded foul at the first base line.
See, that's the difference, too, as you see Derek Lee make a nice play on the ball, even though it was foul. He's got such great range. He might be as good at throwing first base as I've seen in a long time. For that big a guy, he can be off balance and throw strikes over the base or to second base. But Derek Lee, for an example, big strikeout guy with the Marlins. He's cut his strikeouts down, and that's why he's hitting in the 340s.
2-2 to Nunez. And a bouncing ball to the right side. Charging is Macias. 1 away. Bank of America is proud to support Little League Baseball's urban initiative, helping increasing the youth participation in our nation's cities. Bank of America donates $1,000 each week on behalf of the American and National League Players of the Week. The Red Hot Indians, led by Coco Crisp. And Andrew Jones just keeps on rolling.
Oh, boy, what a year he's put up. And he's carried the Braves when he had all those kids in there, and then the kids came along as well. Now Chipper's back. That is an amazing statistic down there when you think about what the Braves have done. This is going to be 14 in a row. That's unbelievable. 14 division titles.
And the cast of characters, even a lot of hardcore baseball fans could name you 5 guys that start for them every day.
No, because Bobby Cox uses those young guys, the left-handed hitters, and he had Fran Coors come up and done a heck of a job. Kelly Johnson, Ryan Langerhans, holy smoke it, he got a whole bunch of them, and they've done that for years. So it's not, they're not doing it with mirrors.
There goes the bat. Look out. Hopefully everybody's all right. That came flying out of the hands of Diaz, and everyone is all right.
If you do that as a hitter, you never even want to turn around and look in there. You're afraid what you're going to see. And you see guys do this more now than the old days when they didn't wear batting gloves. And you'd say, well, wait a minute, batting gloves with the pine tar should keep them tight. Sometimes they get slippery. Those gloves get slippery with perspiration and the bat flies loose.
Charging the shortstop Perez and throws out Diaz. 2 away. While we have a moment, let's send it back to Los Angeles for a game break in Genie's Alaska. Wild card race, aptly named. Wild in both leagues. Getting down to the final 2 weeks of this regular season. Philadelphia, a half game back of Houston. Astros are the wild card leaders. They were the wild card team last season. And the Marlins a game and a half back after dropping the opener against Philadelphia last night. Washington hanging in there just when you think they're going away. The Nationals get a complete game victory from John Patterson last night. And they're 2.5 back.
That's an amazing story. Frank Robinson has done an unbelievable job in the years he's been there. They were horrible last year, but 3 of the 4 years he's kept them in contention. But you know, when you were just talking about this wild card race, how about what Roger Clemens did the other night? In mourning for his mom, who passed away that morning, and he went out there and beat the Marlins. I mean, most guys wouldn't even pitch, let alone go out there. He gave up a run in the first inning. You thought, oh boy, and he shut it down. That could have been, they could have been gone in that series if he doesn't do that, because the Marlins won the first 2 games in that series. What a competitor. And then Andy Pettitte comes in right after him and was outstanding as well.
Ball served into left field, and a diving play made by Merton will end the inning. First inning, the Cardinals failed to score against Maddox, and after 3.5, the Redbirds in front, 3-0. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Huh?
Tony, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Say when, Carol. Tony, your team continues to play so aggressively. How have you kept this club with such a big lead in your division so focused?
Well, I think it's more than anything else. We're very aware of how fragile the winning edge is. You know, you get on the wrong side of the line, it's tough to get it back on. So we've just been pushing. The guys have been very, very strong-minded about respecting the teams we play against in the game of baseball.
Tony, let me ask you to back up just a little bit. Coming out of the World Series last year, going to spring training this year, what was your focus and what did you try to do with this club to get them started on a whole new year?
Well, I think we wanted to stress the positive. You know, there was a chance that we could dwell on losing 4 in a row and forget all the great things that 04 club did to get into the World Series. So we really tried to focus on the good things we did and understand realistically that we mugged the World Series, at least didn't make a better competition of that, not to take anything away from the Red Sox. And, you know, to have another shot, there are a lot of games that had to be won. So we were just trying to pay attention to what we had to do right.
Tony, thanks for the time.
Okay.
Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by Chevy. Chevy and baseball, they just go together. An American revolution. Three-0 ball game with the Cardinals in front of the Cubs. 3 runs, 6 hits for St. Louis. No runs and 5 hits for the Cubs. The Cubs have threatened in each of the first 3 innings. They had 2 on with 1 out in the first. Double play ended that inning. 2 on, nobody out in the second. And then runners at second and third, only 1 out in the same inning. Failed to score. 2 on, 1 out in the third. Got an extra out on a failed Taylor-made double play. But then a strikeout into the inning, and here they come in the bottom of the 4th. Broken bat single by Merton. We caught up with Tony La Russa in between innings and posed the question, how has he managed to keep this team so focused with such a big lead?
Well, I think we wanted to stress the positive. You know, there was a chance that we could dwell on losing 4 in a row and forget all the great things that 04 club did to get into the World Series. So we really tried to focus on the good things we did and understand realistically that we mugged the World Series, at least didn't make a better competition of that, not to take anything away from the Red Sox. And, you know, to have another shot, there are a lot of games that had to be won. So we were just trying to pay attention to what we had to do right.
Tony, thanks for the time.
Okay.
And, of course, that was going all the way back to the beginning of spring training, Jeff, to realize his team had to come out and get back to business, start all over again. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened in the World Series.
No, but that's what Tony's great at. It's, you know, he keeps his teams focused, obviously, but that could have been a tough thing to overcome this spring.
Pop up right side, and they nearly turned the double play. While we have a moment, let's again check in with Jeannie Zelasco in Los Angeles. Of course, Cleveland will play later tonight against Kansas City. That game will be at Jacobs Field. And it looks like the Tribe will have a chance, barring a comeback from the White Sox, to pull within 3.5. Up the middle. Double play ball will end the inning. A leadoff single. No damage done. A 5-pitch inning for Mulder. He leads 3-0. Dusty, can you hear us all right?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep, got you.
Okay.
Dusty, your ball club has been hit by so many injuries this season. What has this been like for you as skipper of this ball club?
Well, I mean, actually, it's it's a season of being constantly tested, and I hate to see my trainer come in because whenever he comes to my office, he might got somebody else going on the shelf. But it's been a tough year, but you just got to play, and that's what we're getting paid to do. Our guys haven't complained, haven't alibied or anything. They're just playing. We're not playing too well today. They're kind of taking it to us, from the very beginning.
Dusty, some of the best managers do is when they're in losing situations, not the winning ones. You've kept these guys playing with all the injuries to keep folks.
Well, like I stressed to them, that you owe it to the game, you owe it to yourself and your family, and you owe it to the fans that pay their money to come out here and see you. And if there's a game to play, no matter where you are in the standings, you play to win. And that's when your competitive juices, come out, in a person the best. So you just got to compete. Go out there and compete. And we got a guy on the mound today, Greg Maggs. No matter what the situation or the game is, this guy is going to play hard no matter what game he's playing.
Dusty, thanks for the time.
All right, thank you.
What else are you going to ask him?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. What do
In
you
this
say?
ball club.
Well, I mean, actually, it's it's a season. Well, I mean, actually, it's it's a season.
Your guys, Ethan.
Nothing ball game from the corner of Clark and Addison in Wrigleyville. Pretty good spot to hang out and watch a ball game, isn't it, Jeffrey?
Oh, is it ever? And has it changed over the years?
Well, they've done a marvelous job. The upkeep of this ballpark through the years.
Well, Tom, my first year in the big leagues was 1964 with the Dodgers. Dodgers' biggest draw in the National League. They didn't even open the upper deck here. It wasn't a happening here then. Well, it was soon after it started to be. That was with Sano and Banks and Billy Williams and that crew.
And even then, they drew well. The best they had ever drawn in that 69 season, that fabled 69 year. But then that 84 team is the one that really turned this city upside down. And since then, they've been packing them in just about every day.
Well, it's nice to see that baseball has maintained a couple of these old stadiums that are such lovable old places, even though they've had some problems physically with the construction and the cement falling and that kind of thing. But to sit here and look out on this field is still so special.
Breaking ball on a 1-2 pitch. Eckstein pops it up into short left field. And Perez in fair ground makes the play. We caught up with Dusty Baker a moment ago. We talked to him about all the injuries and how he's tried to stay his club on the course.
Well, I mean, actually, it's it's a season of being constantly tested, and I hate to see my trainer come in because whenever he comes to my office, he might got somebody else going on the shelf. But it's been a tough year, but you just got to play, and that's what we're getting paid to do. Our guys haven't complained, haven't alibied or anything. They're just playing. We're not playing too well today. They're kind of taking it to us, from the very beginning.
Dusty, some of the best managers do is when they're in losing situations, not the winning ones. You've kept these guys playing with all the injuries to keep folks.
Well, like I stressed to them, that you owe it to the game, you owe it to yourself and your family, and you owe it to the fans that pay their money to come out here and see you. And if there's a game to play, no matter where you are in the standings, you play to win. And that's when your competitive juices, come out, in a person the best. So you just got to compete. Go out there and compete. And we got a guy on the mound today, Greg Maddux. No matter what the situation or the game is, this guy is going to play you hard no matter what game he's playing.
Dusty, thanks for the time.
All right, thank you.
Maddux ahead of Jim Edmonds with no balls and 2 strikes. Well, you saw the graphic there. Through September the 24th of last season, the Cubs were in good shape in the wild card race. They led the Giants by a half game, Houston by 2.5, and then that fateful game last September the 25th at Shea. The Cubs squandered a 3-0 ninth inning lead, lost to the Mets in 11. It began a slide that knocked the Cubs out of the wild card race. And then with all the injuries again this season, and quite frankly, poor play a lot this season, they're an afterthought in the wild card race. They've not yet been officially eliminated, but for all intents and purposes, they have been for quite some time. Strike 3 to Edmonds, 2 away in the inning.
As you watch the last pitch, and this is what Greg Maddux has lived on, the fastball that comes back on the plate. It's that 2-seamer that he runs back on the plate. I never, when I was playing back in the 60s and 70s, and even after that, saw anybody that could do it like this. In fact, nobody even tried it. If they were going to go inside, they wanted to run it farther back in, and he's lived on that pitch. But I was just thinking about the Cubs, what they've gone through, too. Everyone thought they had as good a young pitching staff as you could find in baseball when they had Kerry Wood coming and Pryor coming, and Matt Clement was here, and then Zambrano, who was really a big horse. And you added Greg Maddux to that, you say, boy, these guys might not be stopped. Injuries, boy, do injuries tear you up, especially the pitchers. And here, Kerry Wood is out for the season already, having had surgery. And it just, those are some of the things you cannot overcome.
We were talking to Andy McPhail before the ball game, and he made the comment. He said, here we were in that position you just alluded to a moment ago, and yet Greg Maddux will be the guy 2 straight years that leads you in starts and right there in innings pitched. And really, you figured he was your number 5 guy going into 2004.
Yep. I thought Jim Hendry really did a heck of a job putting this club together, but you cannot.
Base hit by Pujols into left field.
You cannot foresee injuries. I mean, you hope there aren't any, but you can't see it, especially the big guys. And happen twice, happens to the same 2 guys in the same 2 years. I mean, back-to-back years. It's something you cannot overcome. You really can't. Two pretty good guys standing down there at first base.
Oh, boy.
That's going to be interesting the next 2 weeks to see who wins this batting title. These 2 guys could run it right out to the last day.
We mentioned it earlier, that MVP race. I think that's going to be a fascinating vote to see how that plays out. I think if you went to most baseball people, and Jeff, you're one of them, tell me if you agree with this. If it came down to Pujols and Jones, and I think really those are the 2 guys at the end of the day that it's coming down to. Not taking anything away from Derek Lee, but voters tend to lean towards a player who is playing on a team that is going to the postseason. If you had to have one player in baseball today with a game on the line at the plate, I think everybody to a man, Barry Bonds being taken out of the mix because he's been hurt. Pujols would be the guy if it was between Pujols and Andrew Jones. But other circumstances come into play, which we'll get to in a minute from now. Those being all of the young players in Atlanta, as opposed to this loaded-up Cardinal team. We'll talk more about that in a minute. 3-0 ball game. The Cardinals in front of the Cubs. Greg Maddux to lead things off against Mark Mulder in the last of the 5th. Cubs left 5 men on base in the first 3 innings. Maddux a 2-hopper at Pujols. He'll wave off Mulder. 1 away. Getting back to that MVP voting. Andrew Jones leads the National League in home runs and runs batted in. Pujols, by and large, has hit about 50 to 60 points higher overall this season. As far as the batting average is concerned, Pujols leads the league in runs scored, top 5 and everything else. But the Braves have been playing with so many young guys, Jeff, to begin with, and the established players in their lineup have been hurt all year long. Now, granted, you could say Roland's out, Sanders has been out, Walker's been out. But really, Roland is the only one that missed a lot of playing time most of the year up until the Sanders injury.
What do you think? Who wins it?
I'd love to see Derek Lee win it because I'm prejudiced about a friend. But I watched the Braves.
Bullet down the left field line by Macias into the corner. Sanders over to get it, but Macias with his first hit. 1-out double.
I've watched the Braves, and actually on Fox have telecast 3 of their games. Watched them a lot all season. They would not be leading that division, obviously, without those 50 home runs. But if they didn't have his hammer in, this is Andrew Jones I'm speaking about, in the middle of that lineup with Chipper out of there, I don't know where they would be. This guy has made such a difference. And he's got big hits with the games on the line. Those are big home runs. A lot of those, a lot of times you look at guys' home run numbers, and they're at time of the game where it wasn't a crucial time. His home runs seem to be all crucial. So I don't know. Not taking anything away from Albert Pujols, who's a tremendous young player. I think Andrew Jones right now might get my vote if I had him.
I got to agree with you. Pujols, in his first full year in the big league, an MVP runner-up twice, finished 3rd once, and 4th once. And yet he's putting up numbers that have never been matched through the first 5 years in the history of the game by a player. Next time we'll play to first, get the second out of the inning there, advancing on to third, Macias. And there you see just some of the numbers. I mean, look at the disparity, for example, Lee and Pujols with runners in scoring position. Andrew only hitting .220. Of course, then you throw in the defense as well, and Jones, the best center fielder on the planet. Lee, a Gold Glove winning first baseman. And Pujols, a much better than average first baseman.
Yes, he is. Yeah, it's a lot. When you have a guy who's leading the league in home runs and RBIs and really carrying your club, that's really saying something.
Oh, look at the pick by Eckstein on the bullet by Lee to win the inning. Big time play by Eckstein. And the Cubs still scoreless. A 6-pitch inning for Mulder. Welcome back to Wrigley Field in Chicago. The Cardinals bat in the top of the 6th inning with a 3-0 lead over Greg Maddux and the Cubs. Reggie Sanders fouls it away, down a strike. Reggie struck out looking in the first, single to left field in the third. Breaking ball down and away. Sanders, of course, in his second year with the Cardinals. For 7 straight years, he bounced team to team without wearing the same uniform 2 years in a row. Generally, when you hear something like that, you're thinking, well, maybe good player, bad guy. Nothing could be further from the truth. You won't meet a better guy in the game than Sanders, as it's 1-2. And he has really had an outstanding career. One of only 4 players in the big leagues, active players, to hit over 250 home runs and steal better than 250 bases. I mean, he's in the same category with Barry Bonds, Steve Finley, and Craig Biggio.
Well, last year, for an example, his first year with the Cardinals, he had not an exceptional year, but a very good year.
Perez circles it, and enough on the throw to get Sanders. Today's WebMD Health Update focuses on Michael Barrett. Barrett hit in the head with a pitch 3 days ago. They initially thought concussion. Later diagnosed as head trauma. He's still dizzy. And not quite sure when he'll be back in the lineup. Check out your own symptoms at WebMD.com. It was against the Reds the other night. And thankfully it wasn't worse than it's turned out to be.
Oh, boy, that's awful. You can hear that sound. And how many times do you ever see anybody get hit in the front of the helmet? It's always on the side or the back. He got hit up around the insignia. I talked with Michael. There's Michael sitting in the middle today. He said he got a good night's sleep last night for the first time. He just hasn't felt real good. You got to be careful, that type of thing. Boy, there's another fine young man. I had him with the Expos, and nobody tried harder to be a better player because he had been a third baseman. They taught him a little bit, but it took him a while to get comfortable behind the plate. But boy, this kid really wanted to handle a pitching staff and think from the team-oriented standpoint. And he really had a nice year for the Cubs last year, and is close to the same stats this year. But you got to be careful after getting hit in the head. You know, Tom, we were talking before about Reggie Sanders. Now, there's a piece that they plugged in. Tony La Russa, Walt Jocketty. Last year, he had 22 home runs, 67 RBIs, 21 stolen bases. That's that total picture. Speed, defend, power.
Breaking ball in the dirt. They appeal on the check swing, and no. 2-2 on Bresolano.
That's one of the things when you manage in the National League, you really think about when you're putting your club together, obviously your bench, but you want a well-rounded team. You want to be able to run a little bit and obviously defend the field.
Well, they've been bringing players up and down from the minor leagues. They've got tremendous contributions from Mabry and Rodriguez, among others. Talked about the infield and Nunez and what he's done. So Taguchi in the outfield, a lot of playing time. Bat goes flying into the first row. Bresolano out on strikes. Well, thank God that didn't hit somebody. I mean, that was right there in the front row where they have a little shield up in front of those fans where the screen comes to an end leading up to the dugout.
Well, Maddux can make it look bad, and especially fool you with a breaking ball. That's a breaking ball, and you try to reach out for it, and you lose the grip on the bat with your top hand, and now it slips out of your bottom hand. You can see Bresolano very worried about where that bat went, and you're right, it hit just on that glass, just above that wall. Boy, that could decapitate somebody down there.
Ball 1 to Nunez. Out of play, a ball and a strike.
You know what happens in an at-bat like that? You know where he's going to go with the ball. Mark played second base behind him last year, so he knows where he's going to go when he's behind an account. But what Maddox does, he goes a little farther away. So now you reach out, and by the time you swing at it, it's a foot off the plate. But, oh, it can be frustrating. But this guy's a master at moving the ball around.
Really settling into a pretty nice groove here is Maddox. He allowed 6 hits and 3 runs through the front 3. And now an out away from getting through the next 3 with just 1 hit given up, which he will do. Lead to the bat. Cubs bat last of the 6th inning, trailing 3-0.
Hey Rich, it's pretty cool to come to the park every day and be in the same locker room and on the same field as a Hall of Famer, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, surefire, probably first ballot Hall of Famer. Watch him go out there and pitch against guys and everything, you know?
300 wins.
Yeah.
3,000 strength.
Yeah. Pretty amazing, you know?
Above average.
I mean, lucky just to get a chance to talk to him, have conversations with him, everything, you know? You know, all that kind of stuff. It's remarkable, it really is. You know, I just want you to know I'm happy to be playing with you too. You know, I really am.
Same here.
You know what I mean? And we get to play with a guy like Maddox too.
Feelings mutual.
Yeah, you get to play with him too. That's pretty neat.
Fox Saturday Baseball sponsored by WebMD, America's health site. By Burger King, who reminds you to have it your way. By Goodyear Forterra, tough on the outside, soft on the inside. And by GMC Trucks and SUVs, we are professional grade. Mark Mulder has never beaten the Chicago Cubs. We brought up earlier he grew up in the suburbs of Chicago and has really been knocked around in a pair of starts against the Cubs this season. In 13 innings, had allowed 19 hits and 9 earned runs. But has shut him out today, despite the fact that he's allowed 7 hits through the front 5 innings. So Taguchi takes over in left field for Reggie Sanders. Two and one to Garcia Parra. Will be very interesting to see how the offseason transpires for Nomar. Cubs acquired him last year, and of course they extended his contract by a year. He's missed almost the entire season with that groin injury. And now the question is, where will he be next year? One away. Garcia Parra for 3 today.
You know, he had such a great start to his career with the Red Sox, and when he came to the Cubs last year, the hopes were in the smaller ballpark, in the way he can play the whole game, that his game would even flourish more, but the injuries have slowed him down. The problem in this day and age now, the economics, when you got somebody who's been banged up a couple of years, a lot of clubs are very, very hesitant to put out a lot of money.
Hammered into right field off the bat of Jeremy Burnitz. Goodbye. Cubs finally on the board against Mulder. Burnitz's 23rd home run. A 3-1 game.
Thom, in Burnitz's last at bat, he struck out on a ball almost right down the middle. And they tried to run this by him, and he didn't get it by him, and Jeremy got the head of the bat out. It was a little bit lower than the last at bat. And left-handed hitters like that ball down, and he got it and drove it out of here.
Mulder has worn out left-handed batters this season. Second lowest mark, in fact, in the National League at 184.
You know, one of the things as a manager, a pitching coach with your left-handers, you want to make sure they keep the ball away from the left-handers, preferably breaking stuff and otherwise.
Popped up. Foul ground. Pujols out to get it. And let's check in with Jeannie Zelasco for a game break. So again, to repeat, the White Sox will certainly do some scoreboard watching, if not some game watching, somewhere in Minneapolis tonight, when the Cleveland Indians team up at Jacobs Field with Kansas City. A Cleveland win, and the Tribe is 3.5 games out of first. And for those of you that weren't with us, many of you in Chicago are well aware that those two teams will lock up here starting Monday night.
Tom, just to get back to what we were talking about, with a left-handed pitcher facing a left-handed hitter, one of the things a manager and pitching coaches would like the left-hander to do is make sure he keeps the ball, the breaking stuff, low and away. If you're going to show the fastball, show it in. Don't get it low and in. And you can run it by at the letters occasionally. Well, occasionally a left-hander say, oh, I can throw that fastball by that left-hander, and that nullifies the left-handed advantage. I've had left-handed pitchers come in. I brought them in specifically to throw breaking balls. And they say, oh, he was looking for it, so I tried to sneak a fastball by him. I said I could have stayed with a right-hander to do that.
There's a fastball that runs in on Patterson and ties him up. 1-2. Here's another guy. Not a free agent like Garcia Parra at the end of the year. But you get the feeling that Patterson's days are numbered here in Chicago. There certainly would be a wealth of interest in Corey Patterson. I mean, he has all the tools to be an outstanding player. Strikes out a lot. Really just an average or slightly above average defender in center field. But has never lived up to all the expectations. And he strikes out here. And the crowd all over it, and have been all summer. Home run by Burnitz makes it 3-1. We're back after a break from your local Fox station.
I'm gonna work on it with Rawlings or like Wilson to get you a glove contract and get you out of that one with Everlast.
Maybe I can get, maybe I can get like a 2-ounce glove, dude. Maybe one really light.
We'll get you like UFC fighting gloves, dude, instead of like the heavyweight boxing gloves you've been working with. You know I'm just busting you when I'm doing that, right?
Yeah.
I'm only serious. Like, I'm just, yeah, no, I don't think you have either. That's what I'm saying, dude. Thanks for the pump me up.
What's that? What's that?
Cardinals lead 3-1 after the home run from Jeremy Burnett. Just the third home run to a left-handed batter allowed by Mulder all year. And now Maddox here in the seventh. And certainly with this game today, and you figure 3 more starts from now through the end of the season, that streak of winning 15 or more games in 17 straight years is very much in the balance now for Maddox. One hopper down to third. One away. Time for our Diet Pepsi fan cam. They love their Chicago Bears in the Windy City. Refurbished Soldier Field for the Bears home opener tomorrow right here on Fox. They'll be taking on their division rivals, the Detroit Lions. And for those of you in St. Louis, you'll be gearing up to watch one of your heroes from Super Bowls past, Kurt Warner, now the quarterback in Arizona. One and one to Mark Mulder. Maddox second only to Roger Clemens among all active pitchers with 317 wins. We had number 300 last year on Fox in San Francisco. 4-time Cy Young Award winner. One of the game's all-time greats.
Absolutely. We were talking with him yesterday about it. About his stuff is not exceptional. It's never been lights out stuff. But boy, does he take advantage of what he can do. And I'll tell you, if anybody can win 3 in a row, he would be the guy, the way he knows how to pitch. The problem he has is how well the Cubs play behind him. You know, they're not showing a whole lot of offense. They'd really miss Ramirez at third. And as you mentioned, they've made some terrible mistakes on the bases that cost them some runs, because they really could have been in this game, even maybe almost a tie ball game at this particular point. But Greg Maddux, as his manager, Dusty Baker said, is a competitor, no matter what everybody else is doing.
And look at that play by Maddox. Tough throw for Lee to handle. And Mulder reaches safely. Great effort by the 14-time Gold Glove winner.
Remember, he's 39 years old. This is not a young kid doing this, but he's a great athlete. And this is why he's got so many Gold Gloves. And the ball takes a hop on Derek Lee. Normally he would pick this ball. That took a big hop. Probably a strange spin from that jump throw. Boy, that'd have been some play if they picked that one off.
It has scored a base hit from Mulder, just his 9th of the year. No activity in the Cub bullpen. Maddox due up second in the home half of the 7th inning. Maddox wanting to know from his dugout whether or not they're going to hold Mulder on base. Lee playing a step off the bag over there.
Now, one of the reasons you might play behind a pitcher here is that Eckstein can hit the ball that way. You know, he can use the whole field. He's already gotten a base hit to right field his first time up. But I'll tell you why I think they're playing that. They think he might bunt.
And if you keep Mulder a half step closer, maybe you turn the double play or get the out at the minimum of second base. One and one to Eckstein.
I was talking to Greg Maddux yesterday, and I reminded him of the time he stole second base when we played behind him with the Expos. He said, "Oh, I remember when that was." He told me what inning it was, what the score was.
Just fascinating talking about the game of baseball with Maddox. There goes Mulder. And a pitch driven into deep left field by Eckstein. And it's up against the ivy. Mulder being waved around. Here comes the throw from Perez to the plate. And he's safe. How about that? They start the pitcher on a 1-1 count, and Eckstein drives him in with a double. It is 4-1 St. Louis.
Wow, we talked early in this game about being aggressive, but this is amazing. You're doing it with a pitcher late in the game on top of things. But Tony knows that Eckstein puts the ball in play no matter what, and he drills it off the ivy. And Mulder scores. This is a much closer play than you think it would be. This is when somebody gets hurt. Pitcher comes jogging in thinking he's going to make it easily, and all of a sudden the tag taps his foot and he falls down and he hurts something. But you can tell Tony La Russa still got the foot to the pedal.
The fourth time they've played hit and run or run and hit and done it successfully. This ball hammered down the right field line. It'll go to the wall off the bat of Edman. Scoring is Eckstein. And the Cardinals, 3 straight hits leading to a pair of runs, have opened a 4-run lead.
And you wonder what that outstanding play that Matty's tried to make before might have taken out of him. Here's the pitch right down the middle. That's not where he throws the ball normally or wants to throw the ball. That oftentimes happens late in the game when you get tired. You don't lose your stuff so much, you lose your command. Now you can see Greg is puffing just a little bit, and he had tried to make that play on that little ball that Mulder hit before, ran over and made a jump pass. That might have taken something out of him.
Sergio Mitre getting loose in the Cub bullpen. And we have a chance to pose our Capital One trivia question. When did the Cardinals last have the National League's most valuable player and Cy Young Award winner in the same season? We'll give you a little while to think about that. And they could very easily have winners in both categories this year. Chris Carpenter on the mound, and this guy right here as the MVP. And that's going to be all for Maddox. Dusty Baker will make a double switch. Cardinals have scored twice against Maddox on 3 hits here in the 7th inning, lead 5-1, and we'll be back in a moment. All right, Walker in center. Walker at second, Macias in center. Center, second pitcher. Jose Macias moves from second base out to center field. Taking over for him at second base is Todd Walker. And now replacing Maddox on the mound in his 3rd stint with the Cubs this season, back and forth from Iowa, Sergio Mitre.
Tom, this kid has a great arm. He's a big, strong kid, but you can see his numbers are not good. More hits than innings pitched, not enough strikeouts for the kind of arm that he has. So in essence, he's learning at the major league level, but down the road, he's got a chance to be a pretty good pitcher.
And he's brought in to face Albert Pujols.
Yeah, is that fair?
Go get him, kid. 5-1 game. Cardinals scored single runs in each of the first 3 innings. Cubs got on the board on a home run by Burnitz in the bottom of the 6th, but now 2 more for the Redbirds in the 7th. 9 outs away from officially clinching the National League Central Division for the 2nd straight year and the 5th time in the last 6 seasons. Pujols taking a 2-0 pitch on the outside corner.
Well, the good ones can do that, and that's why they're good ones. They'll take a pitch they don't think they can drive, especially when they're up in the count, and judge the speed a little bit. But watch out now if you get one around the plate.
Edmonds leads at second base with 1 out, 2-1 to Pujols. He takes now low, ball 3. Mark Mulder has only thrown 74 pitches in the game today. Of course, he just scored on a hit and run drive by Eckstein all the way from first base, but plenty of time to catch his breath in the dugout. Back to Nitro. Looks a runner back. 2 away. Our comparison of today's starters and their strike percentage, sponsored by AutoZone. 2/3, pretty much for both starters.
You know, it's amazing when you think about Greg Maddux. Remember that stretch where he went 70-some innings without giving up a walk?
Yep.
That is incredible when you think about it.
And it was an intentional walk which ended that streak to Steve Finley. That is the one team, for whatever reason, the Arizona Diamondbacks, that have just owned Greg Maddux.
Really?
He has only beaten them 1 time in his career.
Strange how those matchups sometimes work. You know, the hitters on that club see the ball or what? Or whether they have a good game plan. I've watched him on 2 successive outings where the Marlins ripped him for 6 runs in the first inning. He could barely get it out. Comes right back and wins 2-0 in a complete game the next game. How do you figure?
Walker, the intentional pass. So runners at first and second with 2 men out, and now batting for the first time since coming into the game is So Taguchi. Replaced Reggie Sanders. They just took Reggie out as a precautionary measure. Nothing wrong with it. Just getting his legs literally back under him after being out for 2 months.
That and the fact that Taguchi is a real good defensive outfielder, and I'm sure that the way he has played when Sanders has been out of there has been very pleasing to Tony. He's used him in right field as well as left field. When they put him in, it was a 3-1 game. You're saying, okay, let's not force Reggie any farther than you want him to go, where he might pull something, getting a little tired later in the game. But that's the luxury you have in this stage, too, where you are, where the Cardinals are sitting.
RBI double in this 7th by Eckstein. RBI double in the inning by Edmonds. He's at second. Walker on at first. 2 men out. 1-1 on Taguchi.
You know, when you look at Taguchi, he looks in his face like the bat boy, but he's 36 years of age, so he's had some experience playing, but he's a good player. He's a good spot type of player. 4th outfielder.
This Cardinal team has 9 players that have knocked in 40 or more runs, and they only have 2 players that have knocked in more than 60 runs. The only team in baseball to have more players with 40 or more batted in is Cincinnati, and they're the highest scoring team in the National League. Popped up. Look out here. And Mitre, a nice play.
Wow, what an athletic play that was.
Cardinals get a couple of runs. You're watching Major League Baseball on Fox. Same game, new attitude.
Let me hear you now. Ready? A 1, a 2, a 3.
That's funny. They get all that root for the, Cubbies, and there are a lot of Cardinal fans here. That's good stuff.
Fox Saturday Baseball sponsored by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And by Burger King, reminds you to have it your way. 5 runs, 10 hits for the Redbirds. 1 run, 8 hits for the Cubs. Chicago bats in the home half of the 7th inning against Mark Mulder. Henry Blanco to be followed by Todd Walker. And then the center fielder, Jose Macias. The only Cub run against Mulder. A solo home run with 1 out in the 6th inning by Jeremy Burnitz.
When you get later in the game like this, you always watch the starting pitchers, especially if they run the bases, to see how their command is after having run the bases. Mulder missed with the first 2, but then came in with a 3rd pitch for a strike.
And now 3-1.
Blanco swinging away on a 3-1 pitch with his team down by 4. This Cardinal starting rotation. Unbelievable work this season. The #1 ERA among all starting rotations in the major leagues. Under 3.5. There's ball 4 just off the outside corner. Our Capital One trivia question: when did the Cardinals last have the National League's MVP and Cy Young Award winner in the same season? The same guy. The unbelievable year turned in '68 by Bob Gibson. He won a vote.
Boy, was he special and intimidating.
They was so good they lowered the mound.
I know. He and Drysdale. Drysdale had that 6 consecutive shutouts. Gibson had come in to pitch against us at Dodger Stadium, and he already had 3 shutouts. He came in and walked with 2 outs in an inning, walked a hitter, gave up a single to run him to third base, and threw a wild pitch. That's the only run we scored. They went to San Diego. He pitched another one. He'd have been right there with Drysdale.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, what a year that was.
Of course, the postseason be right here on Fox, beginning with the Division Series and then exclusive coverage of both the National and American League Championship Series, culminating with a World Series. Now, we won't have a Fox Saturday Game of the Week next week. Will come your way the final Saturday of the regular season. And I mean, we're going to have every game that means anything, starting with the Yankees and the Red Sox at Fenway. That'll get underway at 1 Eastern. And all the other games with playoff implications. Check local listings for the game and time in your area. Well, you and I were talking about all the games that final weekend today. I mean, 7 or 8 games that can decide who's in and who's out.
Yep. If you remember early when they first mentioned the possibility of the wild card, a lot of people said, oh, that takes away from the integrity of the game. It's been great for the game.
I always get a kick out of the so-called baseball purists and those that were so much against the wild card. I suppose those purists, when they're referring to the 1940s and 50s and 60s in baseball, when you would come not only to Wrigley Field, but you'd come to just about every other ballpark, and you're lucky if you had 15,000 people. You'd be lucky in a lot of places if you had 5,000 people. If those were the grand days of baseball, I'm sorry I missed it. There was great baseball being played. Not disputing that.
Yes.
And some of the greatest players of all time.
Yep.
But in terms of the betterment of the game, interest in the game in the final month, in the final 2 weeks, in the final 2 days, the wild card has made baseball of greater interest than anything else the game has done in a long time.
Well said. You're not kidding. You're only talking about 8 teams in each league, 1 winner in each side. Some of those seasons were over by the beginning of September,
if not earlier.
Yes, it's great. It's also, you know, you've seen so many changes in baseball. They act like there haven't been changes. Artificial turf, dome stadiums, night games, all sorts of DH. Of course, that's another subject for a lot of people. Interleague play, but the wild card has been tremendous.
Reyes ready in the Cardinal bullpen. Breaking ball, and no chance for Walker. I mean, the Astros season, as you look at the wild card races, their season would be over were it not for the wild card. Philadelphia, pretty much over. I mean, you know, who's going to catch Atlanta? Likewise for Florida and Washington. I mean, is it possible? It's possible, but unlikely.
Yes, yes. And you look up on the scoreboard right now, and Dontrell Willis is pitching another shutout against the Phillies, 1-0 in the 8th inning.
An unearned run, the only run in that game against Vicente Padilla. But Dontrell Willis making a strong case to be the National League Cy Young Award winner. We were talking earlier, Jeff, every game this guy has pitched in for the better part of 2 months has been a playoff-like game. And Dontrell is undefeated. His last 7 starts with an ERA under 2. There's a pitch in the dirt that advances Blanco on to second base.
And not only is he successful, he has a flair about him, and they love him. And he hits home runs. He had a home run the other day. Here's that last pitch. See it hit in the dirt and skips on Diaz. It just, you know, you look for a ball. If the ball's in front of you, you got to take your head down to the ball and stay low. But sometimes if the ball hits a little too far out, you're not sure which way to go, whether you go right straight down or try to hunch up so it doesn't bounce too high past you.
1-1 on Macias. Down and in, 2 balls and a strike.
But I started to say Dontrell Willis hit a home run the other night in that big win against the Astros. This kid is exciting. In fact, Juan Pierre, center fielder, said he's a regular player in a pitcher's body.
Right.
Boy, he's those are the great things that the game is showing. I mean, this is a golden age of new stars.
Cold foul. I thought Lenny Harris had the best line about Dontrell Willis. He said this guy's putting up little league numbers. He hits home runs and he wins on the mound every night. And there you see some of the candidates for the National League Cy Young Award. Many believe that Carpenter is a lead pipe cinch. Others might say not so fast. Clemens, a sparkling 1.7 ERA. Fouled away. Carpenter will be in a great pitching matchup here tomorrow afternoon, I beg your pardon, against Carlos Zambrano.
Well, the good part is you got 2 weeks to see what happens. A lot can happen in 2 weeks for these starters. But I'll tell you what, after what Roger Clemens did the other night, I mean, I know his numbers are not exactly at least wins and losses with these other guys, but he has just been unbelievable, and that was heroic proportions the other night.
Certainly our thoughts and prayers with his entire family after the sad passing of his mother. A big reason why Clemens only has 12 wins. 8 times he has started a game this season. The Astros have been shut out.
That's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on a Dodger team that was a little like that. We won a world championship batting .245. Koufax pitched a no-hitter one time, and Drysdale asked, he wasn't with the team, did he win?
Grounded down to third. Good pickup by Nunez. Will throw out Macias. Staying at second, Blanco. 2 are out in the inning. Cubs now hitless and 8 at bats with runners in scoring position. Trying to change that with Nathan Perez, who's 2 of 3 today. Blanco at second, 2 out, and Mulder going to work. Swing and a miss. We've been talking so much about the wild card races. Still so many divisional races up for grabs. That lead for Boston down to a game and a half over the Yankees. As Mulder is closing in on 100 pitches. The Angels have a 1-game lead over Oakland in the American League West. We've talked about the American League Central. That could be down to 3.5 by day's end. And still a fighting chance, at least those in Los Angeles and San Francisco would tell you, to catch San Diego. More of a long shot there. Two and one to Perez. Well, you got to believe this will be the final batter that Mulder faces either way. If he retires Perez, the inning is over. If he doesn't, they more than likely bring in Reyes to face Lee.
I think you're probably right. Watching him throw, he's still got a nasty sinker ball. But as we mentioned before, one of the standard themes is when a pitcher gets tired late in the game, his stuff is still there, but he can't locate it as well. His legs get tired. His mechanics just come apart a little bit. But having watched Mulder, he has got a beautiful sinker ball. You see why he gets so many ground balls.
Two and two.
You know, you're also talking about these regular pennant races. The Red Sox can feel the pressure of the Yankees coming. The Yankees are getting solid pitching lately, especially from somebody like Aaron Small, 8-0. And if Randy Johnson doesn't get thrown out last night, you don't know what he would have done. And then, of course, the White Sox are feeling the Indians. The Indians have been playing exceptional baseball. How complicated could that all be with the people you think are in the wild card? All of a sudden, the guys that are leading become the wild card guys if you're not careful.
Well, that's what's happening out west in the American League West. In Oakland, it seems like they've been the team in second place in that AL West for an extended period of time, outside of a day here and a day there. Then all of a sudden they get hot. Anaheim cools off. The Angels cool off. And then the Angels win an extra innings last night to go back up by 1 game. grounded foul. I mean, it's hard to imagine when you're talking about the Angels, the A's, the Indians, the Yankees, the Red Sox. Of those 5 clubs, there's only room for 3 of them in the playoffs. And those are 5 good teams.
Yes. Yep. And usually what you think about down the stretch, what wins for you is the team that gets the best pitching. When you get down to the nitty-gritty with a couple weeks left, it is the pitching. And that's what the Indians have been living with. And the Yankees have been getting some of that lately. And, of course, the Red Sox have been kind of scrounging around, you know, trying to put their rotation together a little bit.
We know about what kind of pitching Oakland has. The Angels go through streaks where they look like the best pitching team in baseball. And they struggled a bit of late in the bullpen. 2-2 delivery. Driven into deep left center field, but Taguchi is at the track to end the inning. 1 man left. And a 7-5-1 Cardinals. Now for our DHL game break. Here's Jeannie Zelasco and Kevin Kennedy in the Fox Network Center. Fox Saturday Baseball sponsored by DHL, delivering America's pastime on time. Mark Mulder, exactly 100 pitches thrown in the game today. And is his day over? We'll find out when the Redbirds take the field. For the bottom of the 8th inning. Cardinals lead 5-1. Grzelcyk against Mitre on a relief of Maddox, who allowed all 5 runs and 10 hits and 6 in the 3rd inning. Base hit right field by Grzelcyk. His first and 3 at bats.
Mitre had been trying to pitch him away, and this ball was right down the middle. So when a guy hits the ball inside out like that, it normally means he's looking to go that way. And of course, that first pitch to him was outside, so he figured, well, maybe the Cubs are thinking about pitching me away. If you remember his last at bat when he looked so bad and his bat went flying into the stands, that was a breaking ball away. So he must have gone up there with that in mind. I'm going to try to go the other way.
Nunez being asked to put down a sacrifice, fouls it away.
You know, there are a lot of clubs in baseball that don't believe in the sacrifice. You see Tony still trying to add on. He's got a 4-run lead, still trying to add on. I believe in that. I really do. It depends on where you're in your order, but, you know, it's interesting. It's the type of game that I was raised with, but I really believe in the sacrifice. A lot of statistics don't prove it to be the case of giving up an out, you know, but you are moving the runner up.
Well, Jeff, I had a chance to call a lot of those Oakland Athletic playoff games, you know, over the last 4 or 5 years when they were in there and had outstanding clubs with great pitching and played a lot of low-scoring, one-run games in the postseason. And for me, the reason they didn't eliminate the New York Yankees 2 years in a row is because they just will not, or at the time they would not, put down a sacrifice bunt to advance a runner.
Well, I agree with you. Plus, Tony knows the rest of his order. He knows who can put the ball in play. A lot of times you don't want to give up an out by sacrificing if you have somebody that's going to go up there and not make contact. But if you know that somebody will put the ball in play, why not get him to second base? A single will score them.
And I don't want anybody to misunderstand. I was not implying that those were the Tony La Russa Oakland Athletic clubs. Talking about the teams with Giambi, Tejada, that group. And, of course, their outstanding general manager in Oakland, you know, drew a lot of heat last year after the Moneyball book came out. A lot of people think he wrote the book. He did not write the book, Billy Beane. But he's a big believer in the statistical analysis of building a major league team from an offensive standpoint. And part of that equation is not using the sacrifice bunt.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people argue that you're giving up an out. That you're better off having 3 shots at trying to score the run from first base rather than scoring 2 scoring from second. I've seen it work so many times. It depends on the kind of club you have, too. That's without a doubt. But I really believe you play the inside game, you make the opposition field the ball, you never know where the ball's going to go on top of that. You know, they'll pick it up, throw it away, or whatever.
But now the runner goes, swing and a miss, throw to second, he's out. So Nunez failed to put down a bunt. And then they start the runner on a 2-strike pitch, and it's a strike him out, throw him out, double play.
As the runner goes, and this is an off-speed pitch, Blanco does a great job getting this ball off. Perfect throw. It's a breaking ball. He has to wait just a little bit, but he clears the hitter and throws the ball right on the money. Nice play. Henry Blanco's been a good backup catcher for a long time. Good catch-throw guy.
Thrown out 54% of the would-be base stealers when he's been behind the plate this year. In their strike to Diop. John Mabry in the on-deck circle. And apparently the question has been answered in regards to Mark Mulder. Trying to get his first win against the Chicago Cubs.
Right next to me.
The Marlins have tacked on another run in the bottom of the 8th inning. So Dontrell Willis, who we understand was batting in the 8-hole today for the Marlins, is working on a shutout and now has a 2-0 lead as that game has gone to the 9th. Rounded down to 3rd. And that'll end the inning. Tony La Russa knows all about that. Bottom of the 8th coming up. 5-1 St. Louis.
Tom.
Fox Saturday Baseball sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. By Diet Pepsi Light, crisp, refreshing. By KFC's new flavor station, Be the Boss. Choose your sauce at KFC. And by Chevy. Chevy and baseball, they just go together in American Revolution. Mark Mulder throws 100 pitches, gets 15 ground ball outs, and is in line for his first career win against the Cubs. And it would be a win for the Cardinals that would officially make them yet again National League Central Division champions. Al Reyes now on from the bullpen.
Boy, has Reyes done a nice job. This is his 61st appearance, but 20 fewer hits than innings pitched. He has really done a great job coming out of Tony La Russa's bullpen. He's been around. He's 35 years old. He's been with several organizations, but in this role that he is filling with the Cardinals, he's been very effective.
One and one to Derek Lee. Hammers one down the left field line. If it's fair, it's gone. It's gone, but it's foul. We invite you to join Major League Baseball in support of the American Red Cross Relief Fund and help those affected by Hurricane Katrina. Please call 1-800-HELP-NOW or go online at redcross.org or MLB.com to see how you can help. Fastball taken high to Derek Lee, 2-2 in the race for the batting title in the National League. Pujols today 1 of 4. Lee is 1 of 2. He's also drawn a walk. And there's strike 3 called, and Lee knew it. One of the fans donating to the victims of Hurricane Katrina to the American Red Cross. Fans donating $25,000 at the ballpark. The Cubs players made a total donation of $210,000. That'll be the total donation. The players themselves raising $185,000. You saw Nomar with his wife, Mia Hamm, greeting fans as they came through the gates at Wrigley Field over the weekend. And here is Nomar. He's behind 0-2. He's 0 for 3 today.
I think I heard last night that David Ortiz, Big Papi, I think he and Vladimir Guerrero have donated $50,000 apiece, saying that the United States, U.S. has really helped the Dominican many times and they want to help. I think that is outstanding. So often a lot of the things that ball players do behind the scenes are not known. And the ball player so often is perceived as being greedy, all he's worrying about is his contract. That's not true. These guys really care.
One and 2 on Garcia-Parra. Swung on and fouled out of play. Well, you can say, yeah, it's a longer season, but the bottom line is you're playing in any given city and giving back to any given city if you play professional sports in any given city. Major League Baseball gives by far and away more money than any other professional sport as a whole in the various cities in Major League Baseball than any other professional sport. It's not even close.
You're right. You read the press guides of these ball clubs, it's amazing what they do in the community. The White Sox have done so much in the city of Chicago. I'm familiar with that, having been there with them, building special fields and stadiums.
Popped up in the foul ground, and that one is out of play. Of course, Luis Gonzalez of the Arizona Diamondbacks just 3 days ago named the winner of the Branch Rickey Award, perhaps the highest honor for service and community that a Major League Baseball player can win. He played right here in Chicago a number of years for the Cubs. That is quite an award to win.
Yes.
Two-two pitch in the dirt. But there's a prime example of what you were talking about. I think it's safe to say there are a lot of hardcore baseball fans out there that don't even know that Luis Gonzalez just won that award.
Yes. No, I know what you mean. It's
they can tell you what he's hitting with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, unfortunately, they can also tell you what his contract looks like. You know, everybody seems to care about that. And obviously that's of interest to a certain degree, what the players are making. But you don't hear an awful lot about what's being done. For an example, George Steinbrenner has done so much good, and you don't hear about it. And you find out later what he and the Yankees have done throughout this country. And it's wonderful.
3-2 on Garcia Power. Foul ball again. Quite an at-bat here. Reyes against Nomar. This will be the 9th pitch in this at-bat. Saw Wellemeyer getting loose in the Cub bullpen. Cardinals leading 5-1. They're 5 outs away from a second straight divisional championship. 10th pitch in the at-bat coming up. Reyes delivers, and that is the 5th two-strike foul ball in this at-bat by Nomar.
Reminds you of the old days when some of the players were unhappy with their contract negotiations. There were no multi-year deals. So the guy who could foul a ball off would foul off as many balls as he could because he would cause the owner more money paid out for baseball.
In the air right field, playable for Walker. Two away in the 8th.
Hall of Famer Richie Ashburn used to be famous for that. If he had a bad negotiation for his contract with the Phillies, he would put some 15, 16 balls in the stands during the day, you know, and then they say, okay, what do you want?
So the 11th pitch at bat comes to an end on a fly ball by Garcia Parra. Now Burnitz, who's accounted for the lone Cub run today on his 6th inning solo home run. One and 0 to Jeremy Burnitz. 2 balls and no strike. Not quite the same feel to this series in Chicago over the weekend. Generally, there's a lot of back and forth. Told you about the 300 miles that separate the two cities, but the state of Illinois, once you get down south in this state, you run into a lot of Cardinal fans that are actually closer to St. Louis than Chicago. I mean, there are families that are going at it back and forth. Brothers, and sisters, uncles, and grandparents, and the whole 9 yards. And normally it's a pretty wild series inside the ballpark, but the Cardinals have been in front for so long. And the Cubs have now slipped pretty much out of the wild card race. They're not the same kind of feel this weekend. Back out of play. We understand Philadelphia scored 5 times in the 9th inning to take a 5-2 lead over the Florida Marlins. And apparently they've done most of that damage against Todd Jones.
That's the first that he's had any damage done to him most of this year. He's been unbelievable.
there's ball 4 to Burnett. He draws a 2-out walk.
Tom, to add to what you're talking about, a lot of times the fans don't have the same, there's not an electricity in the ballpark, and yet the players, even though one of the clubs might be out of the picture, the players still, for the most part, still really compete hard. But a lot of times there's talk about taking the fans out of the game, I've heard that said so many times in baseball. That's kind of true.
Dave Duncan out to the mound to visit with his entire infield and his battery of Reyes and Diaz. Their closer, Jason Isringhausen, getting loose in the bullpen. They're going to stay with Reyes to try and get the final out here in the 8th. This week in Major League Baseball history, in 1969, pitcher Steve Carlton of the St. Louis Cardinals fans 19, including 3 in the 9th, to establish a new Major League record. Budweiser, proud sponsor of Major League Baseball. Log on to foxsports.com on MSN keyword Budweiser for more information. Of course, that record would later be broken by the trio of Roger Clemens, Kerry Wood, and Randy Johnson in a 9-inning game.
I think a little bit later on, too, Nolan Ryan tied that record up in Boston, as I recall. There's a lot of strikeouts.
Swing and a miss by Matt Merton. Well, I don't think any Cub fan will ever forget the 20 strikeout game by Kerry Wood here against the Houston Astros back in his rookie year. I know I had a chance to call the Randy Johnson 20 strikeout game against the Reds in a game he didn't win. Got a no decision in that game. 1-1 pitch. Grounded to the shortstop. And Eckstein, the force out, will end the inning. We go to the 9th. Cardinals 3 outs away from being crowned Central Division champions, have a 4-run lead. Tony La Russa's team comes to bat here in the top of the 9th inning with a 5-1 lead. Magic number going into play today to clinch the NL Central 1. Even though Really, they've already clinched the National League Central because of the tiebreaker advantage St. Louis would have against Houston. But Tony said we are not going to celebrate until that magic number is 0. They're 3 outs away from making it 0.
Well, that's a good feeling when you're doing the celebrating, but I'll tell you, when you're on the other side of the field, is that awful? That is one of the worst feelings I've ever had on a baseball field, watching the other team celebrate. And the worst part is when it's over you that they're celebrating. You know, it's not so bad if you know you've done well in your division or something. But when you're the guy right behind him, oh boy, is that awful.
Got it into John Mabry. We were talking to Tony before the ball game about does he have any preference, and of course you give the standard answer all the time. No, we don't care who we play. But Tony went on to say, you know what? It doesn't matter if we care who it is we play, because there's nothing we can do about it. And he's exactly right. He said, you know, a lot of people are, believing it's a foregone conclusion that whatever team wins the National League West is going to get bounced in the first round. And he said that is ludicrous for anybody to think that way. He said, for example, San Diego, I mean, if Jake Peavy, who when he's right, he's as good a pitcher as there is in baseball today. If he pitches 2 games in a series against you, and then all of a sudden they get a big game from an Adam Eaton or a Brian Lawrence or a Woody Williams, who's pitched a lot of big games in his day with the Cardinals primarily, it's no foregone conclusion if that's who they play in the opening round. Fly ball in the left field. Merton is there. 1 away. We'll remind you tomorrow, America's #1 pregame show is back. The guys will take a look at how do you stop Michael Vick. And the Falcons tell us what it's like to play for Coach Jim Mora. Plus the Bengal star Chad Johnson goes 10 yards with Terry Bradshaw. Tomorrow, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
You know, you were just mentioning about who you play. One of the things about postseason, it's a whole new season. I mean, you can throw out everything you've done to get there. Everything starts anew, everybody's even. And as you said, one pitcher can make a major difference in a short series so quickly.
Been a lot of talk about baseball going to a best-of-7 format in the division series. We'll see if that ends up happening, but certainly in that 5-game series especially. And really the best example, even though we're not talking about the opening round of a series, but just playoff baseball, Jeff, to echo what you're talking about. If somebody would have told you the Boston Red Sox would sweep the St. Louis Cardinals in a 4-game series last year, you would have said there is no way in the world that would happen.
Right.
As good as the Cardinals were last year.
You're right.
No chance. And it happened.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Back up the middle. Walker throws out Eckstein. 2 away. Let's send it back to Los Angeles. Here's Jeannie Zelasco. That's a play you've seen Luis Castillo make 5,000 times. And now Edmonds hit with a 1-0 pitch.
Yeah, those hurt. They're in around the knees, and you start to say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? But you try to pitch Jim Edmonds inside. He's got that spread stance, and it's tough when you're spread out like that to get away from the pitch that's thrown hard.
Of course, there was a lot of bad blood last year that Edmonds had with these Cubs. You remember Carlos Zambrano barking about him going into a home run trot.
Well, you sure don't need any of this. Tony doesn't need anybody hurt at this particular point either, not one of his big guns. And that's what's so worrisome when some guys look like they might be throwing at somebody, because then you're going to come back and even the score. That's why the umpires are so aware that they don't want to let that happen. You know, in the old days, that was all taken care of by the two teams. They would make sure they took care of things themselves.
Fastball up and in. Well, that game is not over yet, Jeff, but what could that game do to the Marlins? Already a game and a half back in the wild card going into play today. I mean, obviously it's not going to eliminate them, but boy, that's a tough one to swallow.
It really is, because that means 2 games against the club that's in front of them, the Phillies. And now they'll have to wait to see what happens with the Astros tonight. But I'll tell you one thing about that bunch. That's a bunch of resilient kids over there, and they've got some, you know, some veterans like Jeff Conine and Delgado and LaDuca that can pull them out of it. But again, they got 2 weeks to go, and they've got some great young arms. 9-2 is the score now, Tom.
Wow. All the way to the backstop, and Edmonds advances on to second base.
Now, it could really affect them, obviously. That's what you're asking. It certainly could. You go in there and you think about that. You'll think about that late till tonight. But having been around that bunch, they don't seem to get down very easily. You know, young players a lot of times don't get down. You know, they just keep coming back. But that could really hurt, especially after having had a sensational game by Dontrell.
3-1. And there's ball 4 to Pujols. So a hit batsman. A walk. 2-1 for Larry Walker here in the Cardinal 9th inning. And perhaps extending the inevitable.
You know, one of the things we're talking about, too, we're talking about postseason and how the starting pitching will make the difference. If the White Sox are going to hold on and pull this out, it's got to be their starting pitching that really buckles down to get them down the home stretch, because Mark Burley has struggled a little bit lately. They got a good game out of Garland yesterday. Freddie Garcia's got to pitch the way he can pitch, and El Duque and Contreras, because they've got a pretty good rotation.
Yes, they do.
They just have got to do what they need to do.
One and one account on Walker with 2 on and 2 out in the Cardinal 9th inning. That one up and in with a fastball. And then got a piece of Blanco behind the plate.
Ouch, you don't need this any time of day, but especially late in the game. Goes down. Oh, that hits the foot. You know, one of those things, people don't have any idea how much that hurts to get hit on the foot. I still have one big toe that is still discolored from 30 years ago. You know, with those foul tips going down. Oh, boy. And if you get hit on and the umpire's doing Henry Blanco a favor, he's going out like he's going to clean up the plate. He's getting a little time, but that doggie's hurting. When you get hit down on that foot, it feels like, if you get hit on the shoelaces, it feels like your arch is going to fall.
Blanco's still really hurt. You can see it in his body language back there behind the plate. And then, of course, another foul ball back.
Oh, I shouldn't laugh. You know, the one that used to kill you the worst as a catcher? When the ball hit the hitter, he was hit by a pitch, but it skidded off him, invariably to hit you right in the bicep. And then what kills you? Oh, and he's not even rubbing.
Well, you can see they're even giving Blanco more time.
Oh, boy.
He is really in a lot of pain right now. Ground ball in the hole. Perez backhands. He'll go to first and just does get Walker. So the Cardinals will bring on their closer Isringhausen to try and close out a long summer of baseball in the National League Central Division.
This package right here, right? Okay.
What do you think, Eckstein or Walker? Or?
Walker's probably the best talker of the group. I mean, if that's what we're looking for. Don't you think? Jeff, don't you think?
Yeah, I really do. And you know, he's the veteran presence, too, one of them. Okay.
Yeah. That's good. Likewise. See, 1 inning, no hits, 1 strikeout, 1 walk.
I think this is a chink in their armor, too.
Good.
I do.
He is an inconsistent guy, but he can be spectacular at times. He was in the Mets organization when I was managing. Did you ever hear what he did? He climbed up the outside of the hotel wall on the outside and fell off it.
Cardinals ready to celebrate, but still 3 outs to get to be crowned for a second straight year National League Central Division champions. Cardinals well on their way to finishing with the best regular season record in the major leagues. This would be their 95th win. But as the Cardinals can recall painfully from last season, finishing with the best regular season record generally doesn't mean that a team will win the World Series. In fact, from 1990 through 2004, only 1 time did the team that finished with the major league's best regular season mark go on to win the World Series. And that was in 1998 when the Yankees did it. New battery now for the Cardinals. Yadier Molina takes over behind the plate. And their closer, Jason Isringhausen, is on the mound. Ben Grieve, the pinch hitter, is swinging a miss, 2-2.
Isringhausen is a big key for this club. You know what they've got in starting rotation, but you always have to have the guy at the back end you have confidence in closing.
Grieve on swinging. Our Chevrolet most valuable players. It's been a team effort here today, as it's been all season for the Cardinals. One day it's Bulls, another day it's Walker. Their starting pitching has been the best in all of baseball during the entire year. The big things, the little things, their defense, they have it all. And in recognition of their outstanding play, Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Chevy, an American Revolution. Gotten the great contributions from guys that didn't figure to get a lot of playing time. We mentioned some of the names: Rodriguez, Mabry, Taguchi. Nunez has become their everyday third baseman. They're pitching top to bottom, the league's best. Grounded down to Nunez. He gobbles it up. 1 out away. And now the Cardinal faithful And there are a lot of them here are ready to celebrate in the Windy City today. Cardinals trying to become just the third National League team since World War II to post consecutive seasons with a winning percentage of over .630. The other two teams, the Big Red Machine of 75 and 76 in Cincinnati, the Braves in 98 and 99, and the Cardinals in 04 and now in 05.
You know, it's interesting. We're talking about all the cogs, all that you have to be a winner. And this is the last piece right here, the closer. Jason Isringhausen, the converted starter from the Mets many years ago with a great big curveball and a lively fastball.
And this should do it. One offer to Pujols, and the Cardinals for the second straight time and the fifth time in the last 6 seasons are the National League Central Division champions. Mark Mulder wins his 16th game. And now the Cardinals can finally celebrate. Congratulations to Bill DeWitt, their owner, General Manager Walt Jocketty, all their scouts, their administrative offices, Tony La Russa, his staff, and all the players. This is one outstanding Cardinal team.
It's been an outstanding organization over the years, historically in baseball, and they have really upheld that tradition. This is a very good team, a fun team to watch. And Tony La Russa for his leadership on the field and what Dave Duncan and he and Dave McKay have been together for over 20 years, what they've done together, exceptional. Deserves so much credit.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll hear from some of the Redbirds and take it into their clubhouse as the celebration will commence. The Cardinals are 2005 National League Central Division champions.
Philly got 10 runs. 10.
Wow.